Oh, yeah. And another thing right now. Cole Sportz! Well, it looks like Glenn Rivers, has landed another job. Oh, I'm so sorry. Let me backtrack. Doc Rivers, who was the head coach of and I think general manager, if I'm not mistaken, of the Los Angeles Clippers, no more, gone. And the wording was a little funny. Was it that he decided to step down? Was it that he was forced to step down? Or was it that he was straight out fired? I lean toward the fired. And the reason why I lean toward that is it's real basic and simple. In this year's
Game 7
of the Western Conference semifinals against the Nuggets, the Clippers bowed out. I'll go into a little detail a little later, but seemingly that guy did not have the voice of the team, and that's what was odd. Now, one of the things that sticks out like a sore thumb to me is, well, yes, he's a champion, and you can't take that away from him. He won an NBA championship as a coach, and he did that being the coach of the Celtics. Got to another finals 2 years later. Got to
Game 7
that year, but didn't pull it out. But then things ran its course with the Celtics, and he had to bow out, and then he went to the Clippers out in LA. Problem, though, is he seemed to run into the issue of players being talented but not playing to their full potential. Just look at Blake Griffin, look at DeAndre Jordan, even look at Chris Paul. That's one iteration. And then the next iteration of Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard. Now, this team was, and I've actually said it myself, this team was primed to either be in the finals or win it.
You for real?
And I did say it. I'm sorry. I said it. And they got bounced. This is how the haters are with me. Fine. Look, I get it wrong sometimes, and I got it wrong with the 2020 Clippers. The problem that I foresee, though, is you dealt with a team that had a number 2 player that just dismissed the urgency of playing in the playoffs. Now, I did talk earlier, actually, in another thing episode about, or I should say, on the daily episode about the Clippers, George having issues being in the bubble and being really sequestered and isolated. And he didn't really dedicate. He didn't really charge the slump to the play of the Mavericks or the Nuggets. He chalked it up to being depressed. He probably is a little less depressed now because he's not in the bubble. But I know his wallet will be more depressed because it was depending on him stacking more cheddar with championship advancements. Didn't happen. And to me, I look at Paul George, and that is a prime example of Doc Rivers and his success or lack thereof. And unfortunately, this was not the first time that Doc Rivers had a wonderful team, or I should say, it wasn't the first time he had a team that was poised to get to the next round with a 3-1 series lead, only to cough it up and be bounced. Take, for example, the 2003 Eastern Conference first round. Now, he was the Magic's head coach, and he was basically getting his feet wet. And he had this talented stud named Tracy McGrady. And after 4 games, they were up 3-1 over the Pistons. This is the Pistons team the year before they advanced and won the whole thing. And after game 4, McGrady said, quote, "It feels good to advance to the second round. I haven't been that far in my career." Close quote. And it took him many, many years for him to get to the second round, even after not getting there then, because they lost by 31 in game 5. They lost by 6 in game 5 in game 6. And then in
Game 7.
They lost by 15, bouncing them out the playoffs altogether. Now, his run with the Magic seemed to run hot and cold. He left there, found a home with the Celtics, and won the championship, I think his very first year there. And I mentioned previously, got to the finals 2 years later. Got to a
Game 7.
Against the Heatles. That time they lost a 3-2 series lead. And then, as I said, ran his course there, and he left Boston and then went out west to be the Clippers head coach. And things seemed to be going fine. They were on a steady trajectory going up. And then 2015's playoffs happened. And it was interesting because that was the year that, yes, the Warriors won it all, but that was the year where the Clippers were the number 3 seed, the Spurs were the number 6 seed. Both teams finished 56 and 26. No, I take it back. I'm sorry. The Clippers finished 56-26. The Spurs finished 55 and 27. But the talk and the argument was, why should you have 2 teams that won 55 games be in the first round? The answer to that question is the West was stacked that year. You had the Warriors, who blew everybody away with 65 wins, and then you had the Rockets 56 wins. The Clippers, as I said, 56 wins. You had the Grizzlies with 55 wins. You had the Spurs with 55 wins. You had the Blazers with 50. So that was stacked. And that was a great series. It was unfortunate that was the first round, but it went to a
Game 7.
I remember that day vividly because that, with the Kentucky Derby, and I think it was actually the big Pacquiao fight, was a wonderful day to celebrate my birthday. Now, my birthday is a few days before May the 2nd. That's when that game was played. The Clippers won that game, and they advanced to the next round. They played the state rival of the Spurs, the Houston Rockets. Got up 3-1. Everything seemed to be fine. They even had an injured Chris Paul not play the first few games, and they staked a 3-1 series lead. The Rockets feverishly came back. They won game 5. Then they got to game 6, where the Clippers had a 17-point lead at home because the Rockets were the higher seed. Why? Well, the Clippers didn't win their division, but the Rockets did, and that's pretty much why. But the Clippers had a 17-point lead late in the third quarter. In fact, it was this dynamic Blake Griffin, I think it was a 360 dunk, tomahawk dunk at that, which sort of cemented the Rockets being down that far. But then, I think it was Kevin McHale that was the coach at the time. He cleared the starters, put the bench in, and the bench just went to work. And they turned that 17-point deficit into, if I'm not mistaken, a double-digit victory. And then in
Game 7.
the Clippers completed waving the white flag. So here we are. We have a coach that now has had 3-1 series leads be blown and lose the series. And we get to this year. Now, the Lob City era, gone. In place of that era is Playoff P.
Euphoria.
And Kawhi. And they dispatched of the Mavericks this year 4-2. They get to the Nuggets in this year's Western Conference semifinals. They were up 3-1. They had a double-digit lead in game 5 and lost. They had a double-digit lead in game 6 and lost. And they had a double-digit lead in
Game 7.
And lost. I mean, it's incredible that you had this coach who had that type of unfortunate happenings now be the head coach of the Trust the Process team in the Sixers.
This whole thing stinks to high heaven.
It definitely does, because you have Joel Embiid, you have Ben Simmons. Those are your two best players. And they don't look like they're going to be working well anytime soon. I don't see it. And I think VIP, you don't either. I think this is going to be a bad hire. And I really do believe that the Sixers are going to regret this. And unfortunately, we might see our 4th 3-1 series lead that Doc Rivers has, only to lose that series in
Game 7.
Now, if you think that I'm wrong or I'm harsh or I'm off base, please like this video and comment below, because I really do want to hear what you have to say about this. Am I off base is that the 76ers should not have hired him, or should they? And don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. And that's all the time I have. Thank you so much for this and every episode that you tune in to watch me on this channel. I'm Cole Johnson, and that's pretty much all I got to say, because that was another thing that I've just said.